What is up, Everyday Athlete Podcast Network listeners? Welcome to Fireside Chat. I'm your host, Jason Bahamundi, and if you've been around the block a few times with us, you know that this show is not pre-scripted. I ask the questions that I want to ask based on the answers that I get from our guests. And speaking of guests, I have an exciting guest for you today. I am going to be bringing on the founder of HETTAS Shoes. And if you've been following us, you know that we've been doing a giveaway for the month of May for a free pair of HETTAS shoes that has been amazing in terms of response from our audience. And so I'm excited to bring Lindsay on, have a chat with her about the brand, what was the inspiration and the stimulus for getting the shoe brand started. And then I'd like to talk to her about what women are doing in the world of endurance sports, from triathlon to running to ultra running, and really see what her vision of the future for women in sport is, and then come back to her in the future and see if she's nailed it. But before I do, you know I'm legally obligated. I've got to ask you to subscribe, rate, review the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform, and go to YouTube. And let me be honest, I'm going to cut to the truth here. I'm asking you to do that stuff because it helps get the show into many more people's ears and eyes. But the reality is, I love talking to you folks. I get so many emails and so many text messages and DMs, and I answer every one of them, every single one of them. And if I haven't answered yours, I apologize. Forward it to me again. I will respond to it. I enjoy getting into the conversation with all of you everyday athletes. It's important for me to understand what's making you tick and the things that might be stopping you from going forward, so that we can find guests like Lindsay to bring on the show and get involved in more of our platform. So that's enough from me today. That's 2 minutes of me blabbering. Let's bring Lindsay on and let's have a great conversation. How are you,
Jason.
Lindsay?
I'm good. I was just laughing because I answer all the HETTAS direct messages on Instagram, and I love it for the same reason you were saying it, because it's like your direct pipeline,
Yes.
direct connect with the people that you're digitally interacting with. And I love asking questions and hearing their opinions and getting feedback. And it's such an, I don't know, it makes me feel connected. So I love that you said that.
100%. 100%. And it's interesting because, look, we're, for lack of a better phrase, influencers, content creators. And I often ask myself, if there are other influencers, 2, 3x audiences, are they actually taking the time to respond to the people who are asking questions? And I will tell you, a lot of the times the questions I get asked are about your shoes or another company's products that I go and do the research on myself and be like, oh, here's on the website that says X, Y, and Z to answer your question. And I drop it in there. And I think what happens there, it builds trust for our platform and for myself. And I have to imagine it does the same for you when you're answering a customer's question or somebody who's, asked about a post that you might have put up.
Yeah, 100%. And getting a chance to ask them a question back. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, we're actually having a conversation. We're not just, yeah, it's nice.
I love it. So we typically start our shows off with a singular question that really ends up giving us a bunch of different directions to go in based on the answer. And our old icebreaker, so I'm going to go back to that because we haven't done this in a long time.
Okay.
You're in Canada. You're in Canada.
Yeah.
I'm in the US. I'm a New Yorker, born and bred. So I will be very interested in the answer to this question. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Oh, I honestly, I will eat a slice of Hawaiian pizza, but it's not my preference. So I'm not going to say
Yes.
no, but it's, I will eat it if it's at the party, but it's not going to be my first pick. I don't know.
we, gi- we'll give you a half pass on that.
Yeah. I'm not going to say flat out no. I think there is a Hawaiian pizza. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with Hawaiian pizza.
I love it. It always is a good question because when I introduce, like, I'm a born and bred New Yorker, like, immediately most people are like, I got to get this right. And I really don't want to say yes to this, but I'm going to eat it every now and again, which is totally
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. And I'm guessing, what is your answer?
I'm an absolute no. The
No.
0% chance. Never happening. Like honestly, like cheese slice is perfectly
Yeah.
fine for me. I don't even need all the accoutrements that go with it. But if somebody's like, hey, you can have like whatever toppings you want, it would typically be mushrooms and spinach 9 times out of 10.
Okay. Okay. I was gonna say mushrooms and cheese. I'm good, but I will go straight cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the harder question, and this is the one that gives us a little bit of an insight into who our guests are. So, who is Lindsay Housman?
Jeez, that is a very deep, insightful question. Um, I'd say definitely lots of different layers to that. If I look at my, today I'm an entrepreneur, but I would almost say I'm an accidental entrepreneur and CEO. Lindsay of 10 years ago would have been like, what? You're going to start a shoe company? Like that would never have been a thought. Definitely a mom and wife, like family, super important to me, and my dog. So like for a mom.
Yeah.
And yeah, friend, sister, like all the family things. Like I think relationships in my life, whether it's work relationships or personal relationships, are really, the defining feature.
Before you jumped on the show with me, were you doing something for HETTAS?
Yes. What was I doing? Oh, okay. So Outside TV, very exciting, has is going to be featuring HETTAS in a new series that they're doing, which is called R&D. So they're about to launch with their first brand, and HETTAS will be the second brand. And as part of doing that program with them, I need to make founder videos, which is extremely outside of my comfort zone. And so I had 10 minutes. And that's what I'm trying to do is when I have like this, like whether it's a 10-minute gap or something, I'm like, okay, just do the founder video now. You got 10 minutes. Like I happen to have a pile of shoes next to me. So
Oh,
I
perfect.
just was like, okay, I got the pile of shoes here. I got piles of shoes at the door. And so I did that video quickly.
The reason why I asked is because when we ask that question, I have found the tendency to be recency bias. And
Oh
so
yeah.
when somebody leads with I'm a runner, which is not who they are, it's what they do, right? I will
Yeah.
always follow that up with were you just running? Like did you just come in from a workout? And almost every single time it's like yes, because it's just a recency bias. And so
Yeah.
I always find it really interesting when and we've had it a few times when somebody leads with I'm a parent or a mom or a wife or something like this is
Yeah.
who I am, and then they talk about some of the other stuff. And so that's why when you're like I'm an entrepreneur by accident, when we can get into that because I do love the backstory, it made me think did she just do something with HETTAS that would lead that to be the
Yeah.
first thing in her mind?
Yeah, 100% accurate. It's so interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way.
So what were you doing 10 years ago that if you would have said you're going to be an entrepreneur leading not just a running shoe company, right? Because
Yeah,
running shoe company is big, but a niched running shoe company that is specifically for women only.
yeah,
What were
yeah.
you doing? And then give us a little backstory of how all of a sudden entrepreneur became a thing.
So 10 years ago would have been May 2016, and I was living in Australia. It was our third year there. I was working for an entrepreneurial company, retail company that was um, started by a woman, and it was very family friendly and allowed me to have toddler twins and have a job and a social life while we lived in Australia. And, when I think back on it, Christina's story of how she started this particular company was just in the DNA of the company. And she was Swedish, living in Australia, developed this lifestyle brand around paper and homewares and her passions. And knowing, I think, that she was able to do that, I sometimes think that sort of subconsciously planted the seed that, oh, some this is possible if you wanted to do it. But at that time, I wasn't thinking that. I was just thinking I really loved my job. I loved the people, and I loved that I had the flexibility to take my kids to swimming lessons, and work 4 days a week, which was really important to me because we were living abroad for a reason. We wanted to have an experience, and so I was
Right.
able to do all of those things.
And so how did HETTAS, what was the spark behind HETTAS that eventually you decided, let's go do this?
It was. I like to think of it as sort of like a combination of things that all sort of coalesced at once. But I think there were these crumbs along the way, and I think one of those crumbs was working at this company in Australia. I think one of the things, frankly, was moving to Australia with 18-month-old twins. Like, people
Oh,
would
really?
generally ask me, "Am I a risk averse person?" And as my background's accounting, I would generally say, yeah, I'm really pragmatic. I'm risk averse. And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, well, I'm a skier. Actually take a lot of risks on the mountain. And oh, yeah, we moved with 18-month-old twins to Australia. So I think doing these things that created a risk profile. And then where the conversation started specifically around women in sports was my husband worked at Lululemon for a long time, and vision, values, and goals is a big part of Lululemon. And so he wanted us to do family vision, values, and goals, which is something I don't love to do, but I understand. So we would go around New Year's, have a glass of wine, and just chat like, what is our 10-year vision? And this particular New Year's was 2018, and our kids would be theoretically out of high school in the 10-year vision. And we were like, oh my God,
Okay.
what, like, wow, this is a big shift in our 10-year vision. Like, what do we want to do? And we both really believe in purpose-led brands and that brands can do good in the world. We love the idea of creation and product and building something. And we're both very passionate about women in sports. And so we just kind of put it out there that, in 2028, we'll start some sort of brand and it'll be focused on women in sports, and we don't know what it'll be. And then following that up, I started having a lot of feet issues. There started to be a lot more exposés around the treatment of female athletes, and there was just more conversation starting around women's sports in the early stages. And as my feet issues continued, my husband kept saying, oh, well, we'll just have Doug make you a pair of shoes, who was a colleague of ours, and he's now our product partner. And finally I said, well, why would Doug just make me a pair of shoes? And Doug was very blunt. Well, you've been wearing shoes made for men. And it just sort of blew my mind. I just assumed if it's on the women's wall, it's on the women's section of the website, the same way when I go and buy clothing, that it had
Right.
been sized and built for women. It hadn't really occurred to me that that wasn't the case with footwear. And we started iterating on that, and that's where the idea for HETTAS came from. We thought, wow, maybe the time is now, with the conversation that is starting to happen around female athletes. It seemed like there was a lot of work to be done in the system and the treatment and the training and the sponsorship and the
Yeah.
compensation, and equality for female athletes. And shoes seemed like it had enough barriers to entry versus athleisure that we might be able to carve out a place for us.
That's so interesting because I think about the running shoe space today, and you're talking about 2018, 2019 when you were getting started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
And
we
so a
we
lot of
we firmly, yeah, started in 2021, but the conversations were like 2019, 2020.
because I think about when I've been to the running event in Austin at the time, I think it's in San Antonio now, I would see shoe companies left, right, and center that never heard of anywhere before, right? You walk through that
Yeah.
conference and here's a brand, another brand. Like I met so many different brands, and I would think how hard must it be to get into this space where it's crowded from the top, Nike,
Yeah.
Adidas, right? Brooks, and Hoka at this point now, and then get to the
Yes.
next level. You're adding in Solomon and Merrill and Topo, and then you get to that, right? And And yet what you said was we thought there was less competition in the running shoe space than there was in the athleisure space. Like,
Yeah,
that
I
is
still stand
mind
by that.
blowing. That is really mind blowing. Is it because like companies like Shine and Temu can make athleisure that people are buying for, nickels on the dollar, and they could just, get whatever they want whenever they want, as opposed to building a brand that would be athleisure in a sense, like a Lululemon is athleisure, or ALO is athleisure, and
Yeah.
like trying to compete with that, who's already got miles and miles and miles ahead of you at the start line?
Even getting started, and I love apparel, but the pattern design, like you can hire an agency, and there's not a significant investment in capital. So to make shoes, you still need to build molds, and there are these metal hunks that make the midsoles and your outsoles. And so whereas apparel, you're going to pay for patterning, you're going to pay for samples, all the same things you're going to do with shoes. But to get the supply chain for the shoe, so for our shoe, there's 21 components to it. And then to build the molds, you have to go through all of these stages and capital cash outlay. That's something that an apparel brand doesn't need to do.
Gotcha.
So
So they could
if you
pop
wanted
up.
to start, it's easier to pop up. It still costs money. I mean, my
Yeah.
husband we were doing some rough calcs, like what would it take to start a brand that is competitive in a compelling way in a space? You're still looking at a decent capital outlay, but you've got to layer on extra risk for shoes. Also, the
Right.
turn time. So one of the things I was saying in my outside update today. So we've got samples. If you screw up an apparel sample, it still costs you time, but it costs you less time than screwing up a
Right.
shoe sample.
Right.
So that you also have, I'm not sure we got these samples today. I'll show you. They're not right. And so I'm like, this isn't the color that we thought of. This isn't the way the ombre was supposed to look. I wanted to produce these for October, and it's like,
Right.
okay, well, maybe we just have to reorder our existing colors because this one didn't turn out the
Is
way we
not it.
wanted, and it'll take longer to iterate through it. So there's those types of barriers that are just a bit harder than apparel.
So when that happens, like, we're going to get into the weeds on the business side because I am fascinated by this conversation now. When that happens, right? So you've already planned and projected, we're going to sell X amount of shoes to generate X amount of revenue that we're going to then reinvest in the company at Y level so that we can also pay ourselves and our employees and da 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 da.
Yeah.
When that happens, because here's the thing, like, I find on social media, when a shoe brand puts out a product that isn't received very well, right? People lose their minds. Everybody's got a bullhorn. They're yelling constantly, like,
Yes.
why did you change
Yes.
this? Why did you change that? And all that other stuff. You have said, this isn't right. We're going to put this to the side and go through some other iterations that we may not be able to produce in time for October, which is our plan date. From
Yeah.
a CEO's perspective, with an accounting background, like, what does that do for you from a stress and anxiety level? And I'm going to add this on as a question too, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to add this on to the question. We, as everyday athletes, we use running as a stress release a lot of the
Yeah.
time. So here you
Yeah.
are in the running business. Something didn't go right with the shoe. Now you've got stress and anxiety. Like, how are you relieving your stress? Going running?
Yeah, no, I mean, ironically, I am not much of a runner these days. So like, but yes, I am like I went and got on my Peloton. Tomorrow the next 3 days I have tennis games booked, whether it's at 8 a.m. or at noon. Because it gets me out of the house, it gets me with other people, and the only thing you can think about is that tennis ball. Because if you start thinking
Okay.
about other things, you can't hit it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just literally, or your game just goes down the toilet. So I try to do that during the day, but yeah, it gives me a headache. Like I have a little bit of a headache right now just looking at that shoe, going, oh my god. Like there's another box arriving on Thursday of different variations of that, and it might be okay, but it might not be.
Okay.
And then we're gonna
Right.
have to make some decisions, and And when you're smaller, we're not on a proper product calendar right now. So we kind of do things on a truncated timeline, which creates more risk.
Okay.
So I know I need shoes to arrive in October. It just might mean I'd love to have a fresh color to put in the market so that it's not
Hmm.
just more of the same. And, in my head, I'm like, is that going to hurt us? Because I'm just going to rebuy the existing colors and we don't have that
Yeah, it's a
newness
lot.
to get everyone excited. It's real. And I think because I'm an accountant, I don't like waste. And so I don't like the idea that we spent time developing the shoe and we're just going
Right.
to not do it. That
Right.
seems now I've wasted the factory's time and I've wasted our designer's time and I know it's part of the process, but it's my I did accounting and then I did technology and I'm not used to producing a physical product and it's
Yeah.
so different and that's been a major stress point.
When I launched Run Try Bike, we actually were producing a physical magazine, and
Oh wow. Yeah.
deadlines and proofreading and copy editing and all of that stuff. And once you press submit, right, goes to the printer. It's out of your hands now. And it
Yeah.
comes back, and we had a great pressman. His name was Al, and he had done it for like 30, 40 years. And he would find, I kid you not, Lindsay, like, this red is not the red it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be this red. And he
Yeah.
would send it back. Like, the normal everyday Joe wouldn't be able to tell. Like, that orange shoe you
Yeah.
showed me, it looks perfectly fine to me. I had no idea, right?
Uh,
But it's your company, and it's imperative that
yeah.
you are happy with the product. And so, like, once you have that physical product involved in the decision making process, everything changes. And I appreciate you giving us a behind the scenes look at it, because again, I do think that we as consumers don't take into account the decision making process. One, because a lot of times we're thinking of the behemoth. Oh, Nike's got plenty of money; they could do whatever they want, and Adidas
Yeah.
and all these other shoe companies, right? And now here you are, very small upstart in this space where every decision comes with a dollar value that is impactful to your bottom line. Period. End of story. I don't care what, like, that to me is why this becomes very stressful and why tennis is so important to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and do you feel that with your company as well? I mean, you're an entrepreneur, not doing the physical magazine anymore. Was that a particular like decision point
It was a
to
huge
move?
decision point, and thanks to Lori, my wife, who is a CPA as well. When we were mailing out the mag, so just so for background sake, we were printing 5,000 copies of a magazine
Wow.
every two
Yeah.
months. The printing was cheap. We had an in with the printer, thanks to where I was working at the time. So we got a quantity discount basically. So 5,000 magazines was fine. But what we used to do is we used to box up about 10 to 15 magazines and send them to about 200 running shoe specialty stores across the United States every 2 months.
Yeah.
And so the shipping cost was astronomical in that situation. And she said, "Look, you're pumping out a lot of money to send these magazines out. You should consider doing it digital only." And I
Yeah.
was petrified about it. What are our advertisers going to think? Subscribers going to think, and all of that stuff. And so, yeah, that, like, those decision making scenarios are real, even for a company like us today who doesn't have a physical product, but
Yeah.
we work with companies like yours who do have a physical product.
Yeah.
Like, it's not lost on me that as a partner, when we put out a reel or a video, we talk about HETTAS, there's a real result that impacts your bottom line. And so when I tell people I have sleepless nights, it's not because I have a typo in my blog post or whatever. Like, it's the
Yeah.
impact on our partners companies that really keeps me up at night and gives me the anxiety.
Oh, it's so, I mean, that's very, very kind. Very, it really is. Like I sometimes, you don't always know when you're partnering with people if they have the same level of energy and dedication going both ways. And that's one of the reasons I love working with you guys is you feel it every conversation and every post.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you this on a side note because you mentioned that you play
Yeah.
tennis. Are you playing tennis in HETTAS when you play?
I do have a HETTAS tennis shoe, yes, and I'm
Very
actually
cool.
really, yeah, I would say it's about 2 years out from development. We're building two other running shoes
I
right
love
now.
it.
So we've been doing the HETTAS tennis shoe development on the side. Doug, our product partner, his wife is also an avid tennis player. So getting a court shoe out there in the next 2 years is a goal. I just wore through the tread on my last pair, and I have to go buy tennis shoes because I can't wear mine anymore, and I haven't been able to bring myself to do it. I went and tried on 3 pairs yesterday, and I was like, "No," and I left, and I was like, "Okay, it's actually getting unsafe to play, so I'm gonna have to do something soon."
So take me through the process. If a tennis shoe is 2 years out and you're contemplating a couple of different models, like take me through the thinking of okay, we have these models today. Is
Yeah.
it we need to introduce a new model, or we're going to introduce a new colorway for the current model? Like, what's that thinking? What is that process like?
Both. So part of the initial planning is just building out a product roadmap. So for us, we built out a product roadmap to Brisbane 2032 because that seemed like a good timeline. Let's try to have a track spike by the 2032 Brisbane Games that someone could actually wear in competition. We Hedas is a performance running shoe company, and part of being a performance running shoe is we want to serve female athletes and make sure that they have appropriate gear for their sport. Now, the shoes we're making are also good for people like me who are walking in the shoes, but they need to also perform. So, when we're
Right.
looking at the product roadmap, we're looking at a person's rotation of shoes, was the view we took. And we wanted to start with a really high end shoe, meaning high quality, high energy return, high durability, um, that would service women in the groups behind the elites in a race that they would train in, not necessarily run the race in, but they would put it as one shoe in their rotation. And that was the goal with the Alma. And the reason we launched with three was to serve three different types of runs or training workouts. Now, as we gathered feedback on that shoe, it's a fully plated shoe. It is firmer than other shoes. The upper is a TPU mesh, which is very, very, very thin. This is my dirty shoe. Very breathable, but we haven't had a toe poke through. Like this, that was really important to me. We were asked for a more traditional upper. Can we have a softer shoe? And so we came up with two ideas. One was for a similar version in the silhouette, so we could reuse the tooling, but let's make it softer and have a more traditional upper. So enter the Cambi sneak peek. So you can see it's an engineered mesh. It still
Yeah.
has a plate, but we laser cut the plate and we needed
Okay.
a softer material. So it's very bendy, whereas this one is going to be more firm to wear. And the goal with this shoe is to be your mileage shoe. So you're going to go, you're training for whatever race, you just need to go get your miles in. It's going to be your comfort, put it on, don't think about it, and then you might just keep it on for like going running your errands or whatever you're doing after that. The other shoe we wanted to create was something we felt was missing on the wall, which was a lower profile racing flat. So we didn't quite do a flat, but it was that idea of the 70s, like having a shoe where you could really feel the ground. And so we've built the Jericho, which there's no plate in this shoe.
Okay.
And it is 6 millimeter drop. It's a very fast shoe, but on the wall of if you go into Fleet Feet or wherever a store, this would get pulled at the same time as like a New Balance 880 or Brooks Ghost. This is going to be the competitor to that shoe. And for those women who want to wear it as a quick track workout shoe, it's also going to serve that function. So we're sort of playing with how do we create this high performance footwear that is actually multi-purpose. I'm not a runner right now, and I wear these. I mean, you can tell I wear these every day. They're my my walking shoe to I walk a lot. So whenever I go out, whether it's to the dog or to go to an appointment, like these are what I'm throwing on my feet. It'll be interesting to see if I change. Like, do I move into this shoe?
Yeah.
Yeah, like what happens when I have more selection? I don't know yet. But the goal is to make it so that someone like me can do that, as well as someone like Rachel Cliff, who's an elite athlete that works on our team. She's going to wear them in her rotation to train.
That's very cool. I didn't realize this, but and you may not know this, but I am an adjunct professor at the college level for marketing. And I realized, like, I've just talked to you about the product. I've talked to you about, I'd like to get into place. So you said it's on the wall at Fleet Feet. Where else can people get
Not
it?
yet. That's the goal.
Not yet. Oh,
That's the
okay.
goal.
So fingers crossed.
Theoretically,
I'm
yes,
jumping the gun.
yes,
I'm jumping the gun.
yes.
So right now it's D2C through your website then.
D2C through my website, our website, and then we're in 2 stores in San Francisco and
Okay.
4 stores in Canada. So we're looking at expanding that store footprint. My goal is to be able to get into a Fleet Feet, and in meetings with them, one of the things they wanted was a wider assortment for the wall,
Okay.
both from functionality and price point, and some more familiarity with the shoe. And so we were getting feedback from them, we were getting feedback from our other retailers, and feedback from customers, and all of that coalesced into the 2 shoes that we've developed. And we do have an elite athlete on our team that helps us with the shoe development process.
Very cool. The one question that keeps bouncing around in my head is, when we start our businesses, we have a vision for it. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to do it. We've got our 5, 8, 10-year plan laid out, all of these things. And then you get feedback. Yeah, right. And then you get feedback from customers or potential partners at Fleet Feet, which might be a fly in the ointment of your plan. How hard is it for you to say, okay, I had this vision of these shoes, but now I'm being asked to do this and in this color or this type of stuff? Like, how hard is it for you as the founder and the owner to sort of release a little bit of that grip to meet customer demands, needs, wants?
Yeah. It depends on the scenario. I think if we're hearing it repeatedly, so I like data. I like multiple data points. When I'm getting that feedback from multiple data points. Right now we're doing shoe testing. And for the Jericho and the Canby. And so we'll get one survey in, and everybody wants to read what that one survey says. And it's like, well, we actually need to wait till we have 10 surveys, because we might get all stressed out about one comment that's in this one survey.
Yes.
But it's a sample of one. And so that's hard, because you get excited, you want to see it. So, with the engineered mesh and putting a more traditional upper on it, I think that was a harder one, because I really like our current breathable upper, but hearing it coming from multiple sources, customers, retailers, it was like, okay, we need to do that. So once I know that there's like logic and reason behind it, we've started using polling on Instagram around colors, and that helps me with color. No, we didn't do that with that orange shoe. We did it with an older version, but that helps me get a sense of, okay, if we're looking at these 6 colors and we put a poll out and people react really strongly to 4, and then we did the same thing as a physical marathon expo. We brought a big poster with the colors on it, and people voted, and that helped me figure out, oh, okay, I can see it's actually the same digitally and in person, and people are resonating to the same one. It makes it easier.
Does that introduce a level of patience that you need to have in order to introduce a new product? Because if you're looking for multiple data points, it doesn't always come in all at once, right? You're going to get, sometimes it drips in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's where, so I spent the last 15 years working in technology, and testing is a big part of the technology process. And what I learned through doing that career was making sure I had time built for testing. Now, it's harder to do testing with product calendars when there's so many other variables with your suppliers. And so right now we have purchase orders in for this shoe while we are testing it. So the
Oh,
first
wow.
day when this shoe arrived and I started putting it on people's feet, like I kind of held my breath, like the first few people I put it on their foot, like, is this, because my eyes just started twitching. Is this shoe going to work? And it's one of those things where we just needed to take a calculated risk. And part of the reason
Yeah.
I felt comfortable taking the risk is it has the same midsole as our current shoe. So if I
Okay.
had to kill it, I didn't have to kill all the whole thing,
Less waste.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, less
Yeah,
waste.
totally makes sense. So
Yeah.
you brought up product calendars earlier, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background before I ask the question. So I worked in television ad sales for so many years, and there used to be, and there still is, a thing called the upfront. And it would be where television stations would sell probably 70 to 80% of their TV inventory for the upcoming year. And they would introduce
Yes.
the new TV shows, and we still see them today with, sweeps and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then Fox came along back in the day, and they were like, man, the hell with that idea. Like, we're going to introduce new shows in the summer. And it upended everything.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I when I hear you say product calendars, I'm wondering to myself, like, I wonder if Lindsay would just upend everything and be like, look, Fleet Feet, I understand you want this shoe at this time, but in order for us to make it perfect, it's going to be 2 months later or a month earlier, and just sort of like pave the path for something new and different, as opposed to introducing everything and then competing with everybody else at the same time too.
Yeah, I think I would like to. I think it's easy to say now because we don't have the large retail partners do follow this specific calendar, whereas we're running HETTAS right now much more D2C style. Like
Yeah.
the Canby's launching in September because that's when it's going to be ready. I might have it
Yeah.
on the website in August, and that's okay.
Right.
And I might follow with a couple colors in October. And so I'm more looking at it from a freshness perspective. When is the shoe going to be ready? When are the colors going to be ready? I made this shoe in a navy, and we literally just changed the navy design today. So it's not going to be ready for September. So maybe that one and this color will come out in November. And someone said to me, well, no
Right.
one launches shoes in November. And I'm like, well, I don't see why not. December was one of our best sales months because people are buying to train for marathons that
Yeah.
they're running in the spring. We
Right.
sold a lot of full price product in December. Why wouldn't I put a new shoe out? Like I wouldn't launch it on Black Friday weekend, but I would launch it the
Right.
following week.
Yeah.
And so, when we're talking, I had this conversation with a woman on my team today who works with our retailers, and it's kind of like, this is when the shoes are arriving. You can still pick up your order in January, but this is when we will be starting to sell it. So I'm sure that'll get more nuanced as we start talking to bigger players. But right now I'm enjoying setting my own calendar.
I want to change the game with you. Like,
Yeah.
like this idea, like we've always done it this way, so we're going to continue to
Mhm.
do it this way, has always been a thorn in my side. Whether I've been an employee at a corporation or running my own business, and my advisors saying, we've always like, I don't care that we've always done it this way. Like, maybe this way isn't the best way. There might be another way to do it. So I'm going to ask our audience, like, let's start making phone
Yes.
calls to the shoe companies or to the shoe stores and be like, I need these shoes when I need them. I don't need them on a calendar schedule. Like, let's change the
Calendar.
game.
Oh my God, that'd be wonderful.
The other question that I've been thinking about is, you are a running shoe brand built specifically for women. And
Yes.
how is the shoe different for women than it would be for men?
Yeah. Let me pick up my shoe. Um, so what we know about women's anatomy and biomechanics and hormonal impacts into their gait and and ligaments and tendons is minimal. And so when we started out, we formed a research partnership with the University of Vancouver called Simon Fraser University, and we work with their Run Lab through a Canadian government grant to research female biomechanics, anatomy, and we're layering in the hormonal element. We had to start at a really basic level because there's not a lot of data out there. So a lot of what we focused on early on was what data exists, and most of it was anatomical, so shape of the foot and like hip widths and Q angles, like your femur, the way your femur comes down from your hip to your knees. There's some basic anatomical stuff that's out there, but not a lot of information about what do you do with that to apply to shoe design, and then how does that impact performance. So when we started on this shoe, we focused a lot on the foot shape. So women's feet are more shaped like a pie. So it's not that we have wider feet than men, it's that the ratio of our forefoot to our heel is bigger.
Okay.
And so we wanted to make sure we had a secure heel cup. We were hypothesizing that Achilles impact from hormonal fluctuations, that we would want to alleviate that we thought there would be more comfort if women's Achilles were not against the back of the shoe. So we removed the heel cup, which is something a lot of retailers were like, can't remove the heel cup. Every shoe has a heel counter. It's solid plastic, and then there's this big piece of foam. So we took it out and we put these little nodes in. And then we made the ankle collar lower. So women's ankle bones sit lower than men's ankle bones. And so often the collar of the shoe rubs against our ankles, which is not comfortable. Our instep is more rounded and smaller in circumference. So this really is designed to hug your foot like a skate. So there's none of that shifting back and forth. As well as women need more space in the toe box. So playing with the height of the toe box and what is the right height was something. We did all of our testing, even mechanical testing, based on a female force profile. And when we went to do the mechanical testing, we learned that there was no published female force profile. So the Simon Fraser Run Lab had to create a female force
Oh,
profile so
wow.
that we could test our shoes. So
Do
we
you
had to
own
do
that
that.
information? Do you own that
Simon
data?
Fraser does. No,
Okay.
it's through. Yeah, Simon Fraser. It's Simon Fraser's information, but it's been published through one of their conferences or papers. So
Gotcha.
it should be publicly available, which is part of the reason that we chose to do research with a university, was so that this is not a black box. Like, we should all be able
Right.
to do these things. Um, and then we tested all of our shoes on women in varying ages of women and varying life stages and ethnicities and paces. And so, all of those considerations went into it. The testing with Simon Fraser helped us determine what type of foam do we want to use? How stiff do we want the plate to be? What type of material do we want to put in the plate? We had a hypothesis that if we curved the plate, which we did, this is the plate that you can see right here. You can't curve a carbon plate. It's only flat. So we've used a material called Pebax, which has high rebound properties.
Yep.
And we thought, okay, if we put that in the plate, we'll get snap, but we can curve it. And then when you put pressure on the plate, when that energy comes up, because it's curved, it actually doesn't come through your joints. So when we measured this design, after the shoe was almost fully done, so like there's no going back now, we were the hypothesis proved true. We tested the shoe against 5 carbon plated super shoes, and their impact travels up to a female's hips, and our impact travels to mid calf. So, we see that in
Interesting.
our reviews. Yeah. So
Yeah.
just those nuances. And then as we're continuing to develop shoes, we have a project going on with Simon Fraser right now on durability. So how do different foams pack out? And then how does that affect the biomechanical gait of a female, so we
Mm-hmm.
can make better foam decisions for women. We did a study that we're waiting for the results on the effects of the menstrual cycle on lower body biomechanics, so that perhaps there's a different insole choice, or you need to be using a different type of shoe during different phases of your menstrual cycle. That's what we wanted to
Wow.
figure out. And we also have a study that's about to start on chronic ankle instability in women, which occurs at twice the rate in women that it occurs in men. And then how does that impact shoe design? So as we're maturing as a company, our research with Simon Fraser is also maturing, which is giving us better data as we
Yeah.
continue to build these shoes. So that was a really
I,
long answer.
no, but this is why I love talking to really smart people, is because the idea for a lot of shoe companies. So here's what's bounced around in my head: like the shrink it and pink it is a real thing, right? Make it smaller, make it pink, and go sell it to women. It's one of the reasons why I typically run in a woman's shoe, because I like the colors better for women's shoes, plain and simple. But they work for the shoe works for me because it's not developed anatomically for a female's foot. It's going to work
Yeah.
for me because all I did was take a male shoe, shrink it, add pink to it, and call it a day. So it works for me. I can
Yeah.
run in that shoe all day and it's not a problem. But talking to a super smart person like you, who's like, I've looked at A, B, C, D, and E, right? And here's the things. And as you're talking about menstrual cycles and adding insoles, I'm like, this is almost like a Lego set for shoes for women. As you're going through different phases, you can take this out, put this in, right? Like, that's amazing. That is absolutely
That's
amazing.
I mean, that's really the goal. I think when we were initially thinking about this idea of a shoe company and how to do it differently, it was almost like designing your car and choosing different components. But what I want to be able to have available on the website is for people to be able to put in information around their menstrual cycle, around different injuries, around what they're training for. And now there's so many great tools out there with AI and data that we can come up with a more intelligent shoe recommendation. And yes, it might vary. Hey, at certain phase in your menstrual cycle, you actually don't want even as hard of a plate that's in the cruise, even though it's a softer plated shoe. You should actually be wearing this one, which is going to have more support for this. Who knows? I don't know what the answer is, but I would love to get there.
So, how do you build trust? How are you building trust? Is actually a better way to ask the question, so that women come to HETTAS and feel and know that this shoe has been built for me. And how are you getting that message out there?
Yeah, that's really hard. I think messaging, figuring out how to message scientific information as we have more and more research published is going to be a priority. We know that, we use our social channels, Instagram, I use LinkedIn. We only will put facts out there that are cited. So it's from that if I repost someone's research post, it's been cited and credited. I'm not going to put anything forward that's a statistic that doesn't have data backing. We know who the trusted people are that we're following. We do a lot of networking calls with other, whether they're doctors or researchers, people studying a relative energy deficiency syndrome. I'm
Yeah.
speaking with the faster group from Stanford. Like, who are our trusted people that we can get information from to share? And then figuring out how to share it in a way that's digestible is the hardest part. And I think building the trust is being able to communicate something clearly so someone can understand it. But it's also getting women to tell their stories. So sometimes it's hard for us to explain about the energy and the way it comes up, but reading a
Right.
review or hearing a testimonial that, hey, my ankle hurts less, that's, if as people are putting in unsolicited reviews, and we'll get permission to publish them, with their first name and an initial, can we use that in an
Mhm.
ad? Um, that's how where are those signals? How do we get trust signals out there that are working, that will help people give us a try?
So one of the things I talk about with my students when it comes to marketing is building a moat around your business, so that the ability to get into your business is harder from a competition standpoint. Now, you mentioned that the studies that you've done with Simon Fraser are publicly available. So if Deckers, with all the money they have, wants to create a women-only Hoka brand, or Brooks has a ton of money, obviously Nike and Reebok and Adidas can too. How do you create that moat? Is it that you're essentially a first mover in this space, and these other brands would have to change basically everything, right? They'd have to duplicate
Yeah.
an entirely new department to get into women only shoes. Is that sort of the moat that you're creating, you think?
I mean, I think that's part of it. I love to get your take on it when I'm done giving you some of my ideas. But yeah, it's that I picture these big brands like oil tankers, and I'm in this speedboat right now. Now, I had to make a decision when starting the shoe company. If I wanted to build men and women's shoes and do them both from an anatomical perspective, I would have had to double my investment. As a startup,
Right,
that's prohibitive. And I
right.
think that's how you get started, going one way or the other. And at some point, someone decided that male means unisex. And so if you are building a male shoe, you can build it for everybody. Um, I think
That's your new
the
tagline, by the way. Male does not mean unisex. That's the new
That's
tagline.
it's just that's another mind-blowing conversation. And then there's the trust factor, like you just said. So these big brands and these oil tankers have spent 50 years telling women that they
Yeah,
are buying women's shoes. So for them to come out and have a
great
shoe
point.
is like, well,
Great
I
point.
weren't you already doing that? What have you been
Yeah.
you told me you're doing all this research. So I think you have that trust factor. And then there is the IP. So when we looked at the shoe, we were like, what can we patent? So we do have a functional patent on the midsole with the plate and the foam technology that is still making its way through um, whatever long journey patents
Legal
take.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, so we added that to it. But the idea was that it is hard for so many reasons, and many of these brands are still predominantly, when you look at their executive teams, male dominated. So when you have a filter, whether we all have filters, and there is a bias that comes through whether we realize it or not. And if you have a team that is all male or predominantly male making decisions for women, they're going to
Yeah.
make different decisions than a group of women, just like I would
100%.
make different decisions than on male shoes than a group of men. So I don't know, Jason, from your adjunct professor standpoint, like the mode is hard to explain.
It is,
What do
but
you think?
I think you nailed it with with regards to this idea that the trust would get broken in a heartbeat. It would get broken in a heartbeat if they came out and said, "Oh,
Yeah.
by the way, we're introducing a women-only shoe based on this research, despite us having sold you a woman's shoe for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years." 100% that would break the trust and probably push people towards your brand directly. I think the other part of it too is, as a smaller brand, you are more nimble in what you're capable of doing. So I will use the oil tanker analogy. Like, turning an oil tanker takes forever. Whereas
Yeah.
if you're in a speedboat, you can turn it. And so I used to say this all the time. When I worked at the Dallas Morning News, I had to go through like 17 layers of red tape to get a paper clip, right? Like, it was like,
Yeah.
you, what do you mean you want to spend an extra 6 cents on a paper clip? I run this company on my own. If somebody comes to me with an idea, I can make the decision in the moment and say, let's do
Yeah.
this. And I think that's also part of the moat that you have created, is your agility to pivot when pivoting is required. Whereas for that, it's going to go up the food chain, and they're publicly traded companies, right? So
Yes.
Deckers,
Yes.
Adidas, Nike, those are all, and they all have stakeholders and they all have investment firms and all these people that are
Yes.
impacting a decision that's going to be made. And so the time it takes to make that decision is going to be exponentially longer than yours. And so I think that
Yeah.
that's the moat that you have, is being a startup in this space that is super smart with all of this research that is specifically aimed at women. Like, that is the moat. And now you work on building the trust, and you've already started that process, obviously. and you keep getting that trust built, and you keep talking to people, and if you're answering their questions directly on social channels and they hear this conversation, now they know they're talking to you. So the trust goes up even
Yeah.
more now.
I hope so. I mean, that's, when we look at trust and integrity in the product and our decisions is I I like sleep. I want to be able to sleep at night. And
Yes.
I want to know that, when it, my husband and I had to make a decision very early on. Our investors fell through, and Simon Fraser was ready to start on the research. And so they came to us and they said, okay, we need you guys to fund the research now. Because the first two research projects, we did not yet have the grant. And we had a discussion about it because university research is expensive.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
and I said to Kyle, like, look, if we don't do this, we don't do this project, because I'm not going to make a woman's shoe without this piece of it. And so,
With
we tried,
guessing,
I
right?
tried, yeah, like, that doesn't feel right to me. And it's not why we're doing this. We're doing this to increase the knowledge base, to put better product out there. And so we decided that we were going to fund it. And it was a hard decision, but it was the right decision. And it filters every decision that we make as a company, is that level of sort of transparency and integrity. And am I going to be able to sleep at night? Can I stand behind this and speak about it in a truthful, honest way that I feel good about?
I think that's another part of the moat that you have built too, Lindsay. And I'll use us as an example. So, what was it? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Threads came out, and we were one of the
Yeah.
first accounts on Threads ever. And I started seeing more and more influencers and podcasters making this bold statement that, oh, we'll talk to the everyday athlete. We talk to, the back of the packer. And I was like, all right, all of you are just copying us. And slowly but surely they fell off, because it's hard work to talk to the everyday athlete, and to get the story. When, if I was to pick up the phone and call Courtney DeWalter, or we've had Rachel Entricken on our podcast, we've had Meg Eggert on our podcast, the attention we would get would be enormous immediately, right? And so when people got into this space and they were talking to the everyday athlete and they weren't getting that jolt of attention that you would get from either absolutely being
Yeah.
negative and just bad publicity, or getting the front of the pack athlete, it became hard work. And we're still here, and a lot of those people have dropped off. And so, again, I'll use this word, the trust that we have built by staying true to
Yeah.
who we are and what we do is enormous. And so the trust that you're gaining and building is going to continue to grow and be enormous, because you're staying true to yourself, which is, here is a woman's shoe designed for women by women based on science and data and evidence, and I'm not guessing. Like it
Yeah.
really, I'm simplifying it, but sometimes the simplest is the best. And you're
Yeah.
in that space
Yeah.
right now. And the future, from an outside perspective and a male perspective, is bright for your company, because nobody else is doing this and nobody else is talking about it, right? Like, I believe Rachel Entricken wears Mount to Coast shoes. I believe, I don't know for sure, but like,
Yeah.
she just broke the course record by 7 hours. There is a great opportunity to promote the hell out of this, right? Like, woman breaks
Yeah.
record and all of these things,
Yes.
but they can't say this is a woman built shoe. Like, it was
No.
built
Yeah.
specifically for Rachel's anatomy.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can't do
You are
that. So,
correct. Yeah.
so I think that the future for you is literally being who you are, and emphasizing that, so that people understand that. And then we have to then talk to the men and say, look, you can buy this shoe for your favorite running partner. Like, they're
Yes.
going to be happier with this shoe on. And you want your running partner to be happier? Like, marketing to the men and bringing them into the fold that way.
100%. And it goes back to the unisex comment as well. Like, we'll get guys will come up to our booth at a marathon expo or at a run club, and they'll be like, as soon as they hear it's women specific, they'll be like, oh, we can't try that on. I'm like, actually, you can, because
Right.
we have been like, unisex can go both ways. It just means that this one
Right.
is unisex. Like, it was developed and tested based on female anatomy. It doesn't mean it won't work for you. Like it it could work for your anatomy and your foot. There are lots of women who are wearing shoes out there that have been developed based on male anatomy, and it works, and
Right.
that's great. And we're
Right.
not saying not to buy those shoes. And so I I always encourage the guys that come by the booth, if we have to guess at what their size is because we only have women sizing on our box. But to try them out and not have such a narrow view on what unisex is.
I'm ready to test them out when the orange ones come out. I'm
Yeah.
a lover of colors: orange, pink, purple. I love all the colors. I want to
Well,
be as bright as I can be.
I'll show you this one. I don't know what you
Oh, look
think
at
of it
that!
though.
That is
Yeah.
gorgeous. Wow,
And I'm
it's a
like,
piece of art.
why do I have two orange shoes? No, this one I'm really excited. This is the same shoe as the white one, but it's just colored up differently. It's
It is
amazing what color does,
gorgeous.
right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Thank
That
you.
is
That's
that
what
is beautiful.
I'll show you one more color. You like color? We've got these purple ones coming out.
Yes, yes.
No, look at
So
the box.
if I was to buy a pair of those and I put them
Yeah.
into my Garmin Connect or my Strava account, they would automatically be called Prince, because Prince is purple, purple rain. Like that would be the nickname for that shoe immediately.
I mean, yeah. I think, we're trying to do a lot of color because I'm tired of seeing shoe wall. We're still going to offer the black and the
Yeah.
neutral, but I'm tired of seeing all of the black on the shoe wall. So we're going to spice that up. Can be a first bit of our shoe rebellion.
There you go. I'm in. We're gonna change the game with you guys and make the product calendar be different than it is. Make people understand that female first is absolutely a great way to go. And men, you can buy these shoes for your favorite running partner and for yourself at some point. No doubt about it.
Amazing. Amazing.
We're bumping up on time, and so I like to always close out because I think people can get a little bit more personality based on a series of food questions that I have. If you're willing to play the game.
Okay. I love food.
And
Yes, let's do it.
awesome. I used to call this rapid fire food questions, but take your time in answering them. If you need to think about it, that's perfectly fine. Okay. Are you a fan of Oreos?
No.
Okay, next question. Do you have a favorite cookie?
Chocolate chip.
Chocolate chip. So chocolate chip greater than oatmeal raisin then?
Oh, I hate raisins. Yes. Chocolate, like the only cookie I will eat is a chocolate chip cookie. Full stop.
Really?
Yes.
Snickerdoodle is out. White macadamia.
I might do
white chocolate
I might do a sugar cookie or a shortbread.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now with the chocolate chip cookie, is it soft or is it going to be like a Chips Ahoy crunchy?
No, it's soft. It's got some gooey. It's a little undercooked.
I love it. Okay. Favorite type of cake is?
Right now I'm on a really big strawberry shortcake. I like the angel, like the white cake with like whipped cream, like not sweet and like real strawberries. I had one last night. We actually ordered dessert last night and the strawberry shortcake had jam in it and it really pissed me off because I wanted like chunks of strawberry. Yeah.
Yes. Favorite type of pie is?
That one's hard. I go with the apple. I love a really good apple pie. My mom makes a very good apple pie.
A la mode, you're adding vanilla ice cream to it or straight apple pie?
No. Ice cream, heated. Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Is there a favorite non-chocolate type of candy that you look to when you need sugar that's not chocolate?
Right now, I'm obsessed with Swedish candy because it's gummies, but they're not as sweet. And so I've been buying Swedish, like not Swedish berries. It's like they're like Swedish gummies.
Interesting. We'll have to look those up. So now what about your favorite chocolate candy?
There is a dark chocolate that's made out of Victoria. It's called dark milk because it has milk in it, so it's not as bitter as a pure dark chocolate,
Interesting.
but you only need one piece of it. It's like so satisfying, and it has the creaminess of milk chocolate. That is, I always have one in my cupboard.
So we were in Switzerland. Lori was finishing up her dissertation. We were in Switzerland and we went to the Collier chocolate factory. And as we were on the train going there, it dawned on me, I'm like, Switzerland is not a tropical country. Like, where's the cacao bean coming from for them to make chocolate? Like, this is, I don't understand it. As it turns out, so they give you the history when you go through the tour, and through the Spanish conquistadors, the cocoa bean wound up in Switzerland. And of all places, 3 scientists, Nestle, Collier, and I can't remember the third guy's name, all were basically building these chocolate empires all at the same time in Switzerland, which is how Switzerland became
wow.
known for it. And it was fascinating. And I bring this up because Collier has a blueberry hazelnut chocolate bar that is
Yeah.
absolutely to die for. Like, I was sad when we ate the last piece of it because I was like, we can't get this back. Like, you're not finding this anywhere here in the US.
Oh, I understand that. I understand.
It was rough. I tell you, it was rough.
There's a chocolate in Japan called Royce. There is a store on Newbury Street in Boston that I did see, but that, we were there years ago, and I still think about, like, oh, if someone's going to Japan, I'm like, can you get Royce chocolate? It's little
We'll have
squares.
to,
So
I'm
good.
gonna have to look it up, add it to my collection of must-have chocolates then.
Yeah.
Favorite meal? Like, what is on the plate that makes you smile every time?
Anything Italian. I grew up in an Italian household, like pasta, some sort of pasta dish. I think I love pasta. I love noodles. I love homemade pasta and like really good sauces.
Red sauce, cream sauce, or pesto?
It could be a red sauce. It could be like a brown butter sauce on an agnolotti. Like it's
Yeah.
cream sauce. It could be a cacio e pepe.
Yep.
Not like so something that is like more traditional Italian sauces.
It's interesting. When I go to an Italian restaurant for the first time, I always order the cacio e pepe because if you can make that really well,
Yeah,
then the rest of your menu is going to be phenomenal, and I
a
will
hundred.
come back.
Yes,
If it
yes, yes.
if it doesn't taste good,
True.
I'm never coming back.
No, yeah, you can't do that. It's the one and done.
Yeah, because it while on the surface in the bowl, it's a simple dish, but if it's made just slightly off, you can tell, and then I'm out. Like, I'm just not coming back because nothing else is going to be getting the attention that this simple dish should be getting.
You're speaking to my heart. You're speaking.
I love it. Last question for you.
Yeah.
A tray of brownies has just come out of the oven. It's sitting on the kitchen
Okay.
counter long enough that you can cut it without making just a total mess out of it. Are you
hmm
going to the corner edge? Are you going to the edge? Or are you going to the middle for the ooey gooey?
No, I'll go middle of the edge because I don't. I
Okay.
it would my pattern. I would actually cut the end piece and leave it because it would be too illogical for me to go straight to the middle, even though that's probably the
Right.
piece that I want. So I'll go middle on the edge, and I'll just like be okay with the fact that there's one out of three edges.
So I had a guest on here months ago, and they cheated the system. They said, "Well, I would cut the edge middle piece out and give it to my wife so that I can go in and get the middle
Oh
piece
yeah,
for my
and
son."
my son. Yeah, 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 yeah. Has anyone ever said they're just cutting like straight in the middle and like
One We've
scooping
been
it
doing this
in?
show for 3 years, and one person has said that they would go straight to the middle. They'd finagle the spatula in there so not to mess up the rest of the tray.
That is an honest person.
Really, it totally is. Now, with the similar to the apple pie, are you going a la mode, and is it going to be vanilla ice cream?
No, no, I'm not going a la mode. I'm going straight brownie.
Straight brownie.
Yeah.
Any nuts on the brownie, or just give me all the chocolate?
No, no, no. I don't want any. No, the only thing I like in a brownie is sometimes they do like that zebra brownie with the cream cheese.
Yeah.
That's okay, that's acceptable, but I do not want like it just like straight brownie.
I love it. This is so awesome.
Yeah.
Lindsay, thank you so much for joining me on this Fireside Chat. You've been a great guest. You've educated not just me, but I'm sure our audience about where HETTAS came from, the idea behind it, and honestly, the science behind it. Because, and I think that that's valuable information for women when they're making a decision on the next shoe. Like, is this shoe for me? And clearly, HETTAS is the shoe for women.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for your support and partnership and being on this podcast. This was super fun. Thank you.
Awesome. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay.
All right, folks, you heard it from Lindsay's mouth. HETTAS is the shoe made specifically for women. So make sure, women, you check them out. We've been doing a giveaway for the month of May. We will be doing another one in June. So make sure you check in every Friday. We've got some great videos that go up to help promote women and women in sport and give easy entry into a giveaway for a free pair of HETTAS shoes. So again, people, please subscribe, rate, review the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform, as well as on YouTube. It really does help us get up there in the algorithm so more people see and hear us, and be able to bring on great guests like Lindsay because they know that there's going to be engagement and conversation. I'll see you next time on the next Fireside Chat.